Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webcast. Design employee benefits that flex to fit every lifestyle. Sponsored by Forma. This webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI and can be submitted for SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. If you have any questions during the webcast, click on the Q&A tab in your webinar controls and type them there. A new tab will open in your browser with the webcast survey. Please be sure to complete it as soon as the webcast has ended. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Forma for their presentation.
Thank you, Esther. So hello, everybody. My name is Jason Fan, founder and CEO at Forma, and I will be your host and guide for today's webinar on the following topic: design employee benefits that flex to fit every lifestyle. Super excited to be here today and very, very glad that you could be with us. Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to introduce our guest today. Brad leads the global benefits team at Stripe, global leader in the payment space. We have been here at Forma, we have been partnering with Stripe for a few years, and they are one of the earliest adopters of this concept of flexible benefits. So super excited to have Brad with us here today to share some of those invaluable insights learned over the last couple of years. Okay, so Brad, would you be able to give the audience a quick intro to your background and what Stripe does as a business?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jason. Really excited to be here and share more about the Stripe experience with Forma. So again, my name is Brad Kempf, and I'm the head of global benefits at Stripe. I've been with Stripe for almost a year now, and I have a background specifically in benefits for many more years than I'd like to admit. But the last 4 years have been focused in the tech industry. And like I said, I came to Stripe a little less than a year ago, and Stripe is a fintech company, and we really focus on supporting the GDP of the internet. And we do a lot in the background in processing payments for online vendors and point of contact. So you may never know that you're actually using a Stripe product or Stripe functionality, because that's all behind the scenes. But a lot of transactions that are done online and in stores are now processed by Stripe.
Terrific. Thank you for that lovely intro, Brad. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Stripe and the benefit strategy in just a little bit. In terms of the agenda here on the left, we would love to first kick off with an introduction of who we are, what Forma does as a company, short and sweet intro, I promise. And Brad and I will then walk through a couple pressing topics in the employee benefits today and in our broader society. I will then host a virtual fireside chat with Brad on a few concepts that can help everybody reimagine employee benefits, that can help just really that fits into every lifestyle. And then we'll try to close with a Q&A segment. Okay. As a reminder, there is a Q&A function on Zoom. So if you navigate to the black box on your screen, feel free to pop your question in there along the way as we go. And we're going to try to get to all of those questions as to the best of our abilities towards the end. Okay, so without further ado, I would love to kick us off into the intro section. Okay, so who exactly is Forma and what do we do? And if we think back 10 to 20 years, right, employers have historically provided employee benefits programs in more or less of a cookie cutter format, right? And as many of us weren't really able to make benefits flexible or personalized at scale, when we have a couple hundred, couple thousand employees, it's really, really hard to make sure that we support each individual employees in a personalized way. And we've all been there before, right? Vendor RFP processes, open enrollment, choose from a finite list of point solutions, and then you're locked in, sign a contract, locked in for the rest of the year or multiple years. And over the last 10 to 20 years, more and more of these point solutions are being introduced to the mix, right? And one of the big challenges that we face as benefits professionals today, especially in this ever-changing world, is how many of these point solutions do we really need? And how many can we actually introduce to our workforce? Right? There is for sure a finite budget, there is for sure finite resources, but there are practically infinite requests coming from the employees, right? They're always looking for more. And of course, as an employer, we want to look for more ways to support them. But this is not sustainable. We cannot just simply introduce more and more of these point solutions every year and over year again, right? So many of us in the benefit space already seen a big fatigue from point solution burnout, okay? So With this new way of work being brought on by the pandemic, people are more diverse, more dispersed geographically. Employees now demand more flexibility and choice from the employers, right? So Forma's life benefits platform is designed to help you tackle exactly this. We want to make sure that we help you answer questions like, how can I design a benefits program that supports employees during those important moments in life that matters the most to them, right? How can I, as the employer, show up and be there to support my employees in an equitable way across the globe, no matter how diverse and dispersed geographically my employees are? Okay, so with Forma, companies can build their benefits offering with a fully customizable spending account platform to support today's workforce. Okay, so you as the employer simply have to define a budget here on the left-hand side and define a program policy for that budget. Really simple 2 steps. And then we bring it to the employees. Employees can use those defined programs in the platform to choose benefits providers, programs that are the most meaningful to them based on their background, based on their needs, right? And they can do so via a benefits and vendor marketplace that we, Forma, run on behalf of you. So there's no more point solutions that you have to directly manage. They can also select benefits via a unified benefits debit card. Really cool. Or they can also go the conventional route and file a reimbursement claim once they have made an eligible purchase. Okay. Forma sits in the background, takes care of that entire process, and puts the best interest of you and the employees in mind. We help you meet your employees where they are, essentially. Okay, so programs within Forma's life benefits platform aim to look at the employees' needs in a very holistic way across several areas, including health and wellness, career development, family support, financial wellness, and many, many more areas. And we really value the diverse nature of each very unique employee, and we want to make sure that we offer a curated experience for each one of them individually, right? And to date, Forma's customers have designed innovative programs, including lifestyle spending accounts, rewards recognition programs, fertility and adoption, general support for the family, working from home, wellness, caregiving, even some of the more conventional programs that you see here, FSA, HSA, commuter programs, many, many more. Okay, and in fact, in just a little bit, we're going to hear from Brad about some of the use cases that Stripe has been using. Okay, and so far, we have seen great success from our members, 90A satisfaction rating, 75 NPS score from the employees and the members, and around a 99% retention rate of our customers. So it's proven that employees and employers do find a ton of success in a flexible flexible benefits design. And Forma now also covers over 300,000 total members across more than 130 customers and actually 80 plus countries worldwide. Okay, we want to help you bring that equitable benefits design across the globe to every one of your employees. And lastly, we do pride ourselves in our ability and experience being able to help some of the most innovative companies on the planet run their benefits programs in ways that truly aims to support every employee, right? During the most important moments in life that matter to them the most. And we'll work with a lot of them to push the boundaries of benefits forward and think about what comes next in the benefits industry. Okay, that's it. I promised a short and sweet intro. And at the end of the webinar, I'll also provide a couple ways to get in touch and a couple of white papers and some of the research that we have been doing in this market. We want to make sure that we provide the resources, some helpful resources for you. Okay, so that said, Brett, I would love to talk through a couple trends that we have been seeing in the benefit space and the overall society with you. We'd love to hear how Stripe and your team is thinking through those trending topics. Okay, so here at Forma, we have been keeping a close watch on the development of a few trends that's happening in our society, on the market today, right? The pandemic, returning to work, inflation, different topics that's top of mind for a lot of people. And here are a few notable trends and stats that we would love to share with the audience today. For example, in this annual Work Trend Index Report 2022 published by Microsoft, 50% of the employers are planning a return to the office full-time within the next year. Okay, that's a big portion. And based on the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and the report that they did in March of 2022, 8.5% was the rate at which the consumer price index has increased, essentially inflation at 8.5% over the last year. And from SHRM Interactive Chart 2022, 4 million was the average number of workers who quit their jobs in 2021. Okay, so we've all heard of, the great reshuffling and all those buzzy terms, but though the trend is really happening. Another sort of a new trend that we saw just yesterday, as reported in 17 states here in the US, unemployment rate is at an all-time low. And for every one job seeker, there are 2 openings. Okay, so this tells us that it really is still very much a tight labor market with all these other trends happening at the same time. And of course, while the businesses and employers are working through those challenges and changes, the employees are also speaking up about what they're looking for, right? So here on the same report published from Microsoft, 52% of the employees are actually considering hybrid or remote roles in the year ahead, right? So that's going to clash a little bit with the return to office plans that a lot of the employers are planning to do. I'm sure a lot of both the employers and employees are anxiously waiting to see how that return to office plans are going to shake out. Okay, and from this Economic Policy Institute, 5.6% is the actual year-over-year growth on nominal wages. What does that tell us? It tells us the employees are actually losing purchasing power when we combine this nominal wage increase with that 8.5% inflation rate. Okay, so they're being squeezed in this period with inflation rate rising quickly. And then lastly, Mercer's Global Talent Trends 2022 study tells us that roughly 81% of the employees feel the risk of a burnout in today's environment. And this is corroborated by HR.com's State of the Employee Wellbeing, 2022 survey. I believe when asking survey respondents across the industry, the most common employee stressor is burnout, right at around 72.5%. So many employees are simply overwhelmed during this time of change. Okay, now, Brad, I got a few questions for you. And I would love to actually get the audience involved real quick so we can weave some of the audience, questions into the discussion that we have. So for those of you on the call, in the poll section just launched, please share the topic that is top of mind for you. Okay, we will love to, between Brad and me, we'll love to address this as much as we can. Is it talent acquisition and retention? Is it remote hybrid workforce? Is it plans to return to the office? Is it employee benefits with a limited budget? I'm sure challenges a lot of people. Or is it employee benefits on a global scale, which is one of Brad's expertise? Or is it a push on DE&I initiatives? Okay. We're going to keep the poll open for a little while. But during that time, Brad, we just spoke about a couple trends, right? Really big ones, unlike anything we've ever seen before over the last couple of years. What is going on in Stripe's benefits team? What's top of mind for you and your team?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, all the stats you showed are at the top of our mind, every category. And looking at the live poll, I mean, if I were to take it, it's really hard to choose from this list of 6 items as to what's the top priority, because you can make an argument for every single one of them. But if I had to narrow it down, there's a couple things specifically from the benefits perspective and what we're looking at Stripe. There's a couple things on the top of my mind right now, and those are really related to one, how do we make smart investments with our benefit programs and provide the benefits that our employees find the most value in while staying within budget? So, working with a limited budget, dealing with inflation, how can we really make smart investments with our programs? And then 2, kind of determining what is important to employees and the employer as we shift away from the pandemic and move more into an endemic state, because you showed that a lot of employers want to go back full time, but employees, was at 52%, are looking to really be a hybrid. So, we've at Stripe, we've gone through incredible growth since the start of COVID until now, and we're still seeing growth. And where that really impacts us in benefits is that a lot of our plans were designed for hundreds of employees, not really thousands of employees spread out across the country. It was more concentrated in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, New York, where we have big offices. So now that we're all spread out, we're remote, we're really looking to how can we optimize and refine our plans so that we can scale with the growth of the company, keep the macroeconomic conditions in line with what we're looking to do, and just stay within budget, which everybody here probably knows is not easy to do in the benefits space, because even without inflation, benefit costs go up significantly every year as the cost of receiving care goes up. But in order to, kind of help us focus on the changes we want to do and where we should, put our efforts, one thing we're doing right now is we just wanted to ask our employees directly, what do you all want? Where do you want us to make the investment? So we're conducting a total rewards preference survey, and we're going to use that data from the employees telling us what they want to kind of help inform us on our programs and where we make those investments, and to help us iterate our programs for the plan designs in next year and beyond. And then finally, just kind of wrapping up this point is, we need to really realize and understand if the pre-pandemic programs that we had in place will work going forward. A classic example of this is, commuting benefits. Commuter subsidies are really common in the tech sector. And now we have to ask ourselves, does this make sense, one, as a standalone program, or should we really route those dollars elsewhere, since employees are going to be visiting the office less often, but we don't know how less often yet, because a lot of that's still in flux. Do we keep the program as is? Do we, reduce the amount, increase it? We don't have a specific answer yet, and we know how different employers approach this program will vary greatly. But one thing we're doing at Stripe is really using 2022 as a year of experimentation around returning to the office and different benefits. So all of our offices are open around the globe for optional on-site work, but we're not requiring employees to go into the office for the rest of the year. But what we're hoping to do is learn from the employee behavior of this year to inform our approach for next year in terms of benefits, transportation, and the spend, and how we use our office space. Those are kind of a few examples of how we're going to use that data.
Makes a ton of sense, Brad. And as you were sharing some of the insights and the discussion topics within the team, I wanted to double click on something based on what you just shared, right? Something that possibly for the audience to also think through, in a time that when the only constant feels like change, right? That's the only thing we know. You mentioned a couple points, how much of a commuter shift is going to change in the workforce from a pandemic global state. There's a lot of uncertainty that's lying ahead, right? Not to even mention some of the other societal problems that we're seeing today. It is key, of course, very important. That's why we're here on this webinar today, to make sure that we give employees more flexibility and choice, right? Meet them where they are, so to speak. But what many overlook is also the opportunity to retain flexibility as benefits professional ourselves, right? And take an example that we were just talking about earlier. Point solution after point solutions are simply not sustainable, right? Employees don't find the programs relevant, engagement rate is low, vendor management is quickly getting out of hand, and Brad, you captioned it perfectly, cost increases even without inflation. That's going to be built into the 50 different contracts that you have signed with different point solutions. Now, talking about burnout just several minutes ago, now at least we know where burnout is coming from for many benefits professionals. It's just way too many point solutions to sort through, right? So this is another place where flexible benefits design can help a ton for the benefits professionals, administrators ourselves. Move the budgets allocated from to the point solutions originally, put it into a pool, right? Define some rules, give employees a chance to decide which programs are the most applicable based on their needs, right? Most meaningful to them. The great flexibility for the employees while giving benefits professionals back the freedom from point solution burnout. I think this is something that often gets overlooked, but I think it's going to be a lot more important in the world that we're trying to navigate, just constant changes, right? Win-win for both sides. Now, okay, I very easily get excited around this topic, so I have to remind myself to stop and move on to the next topic, otherwise we'll be here for hours. But we'll love to see the results from the poll that we were just running earlier. So Hester, that would be very fun. Oh, here we go. I'm not sure if everybody can see it on the screen here, but the biggest one is still at the top, talent acquisition and retention, right? Followed by sort of a distant second, employee benefits with limited budgets. And then the third, just navigating that hybrid remote workforce. Brad, would you be able to share a little bit around like the talent acquisition and retention side? You mentioned Stripe has been growing at a very rapid clip, still is in that growth stage. What are some of the things that's top of mind for you from a benefits perspective to support the recruiters to be able to bring in talent and make sure that we retain the best talent possible?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something, you know, we think about daily because it is very fierce right now, competing for talent. There's, as we've all seen, there's so many openings right now that are really hard to fill. It's a really strange time with what you hear about the economy, but then the job market being so strong. I think you actually talked about it a bit just a few seconds ago, where, you know, we really try to focus a lot on the flexibility and choice in our offerings as kind of a differentiator. You know, you're not going to, you know, benefits are very important, but it is very rare where it does happen, but it is rare where somebody really sits down and be like, well, this medical premium is $10 higher, you know, their copays are a little bit lower. All that is important, but that's not usually the focus of candidates. They're looking for, you know, something that's a little more unique and, you know, kind of something that's different than what they had, where they see that value. And so at Stripe, what we've done is in our benefits philosophy, we have 4 pillars, and one of the 4 pillars is, we call it flexibility and choice. And that's why, you know, we'll get into this later, but one of the reasons we partner with Forma, because, you know, it's really easy for somebody like me or my team or most of you watching here to create a benefits program. It would be really simple to do so, but it's not going to capture the whole population no matter how hard we try, because there's so many different generations in the workforce. There's so many different demographics that there's truly not a one size fits all approach to benefits anymore. And that's where the flexibility and choice comes in. And that's where you can stand out by giving your employees the, you know, empower them to choose, you know, where they want to invest their benefit dollars. It is very powerful for an organization, and how you can try to set yourself apart. So that's kind of how I view it and how we've been looking at it at Stripe.
Lovely, Brad. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And maybe a little bit of an insight I can share from my end as well. Obviously, Forma as a company is nowhere near the scale and the growth that Stripe is seeing right now. But compared to a year ago, we grew the team from roughly 40 people to now we're approaching 190. So it's a bit of a 4-fold increase on our side. And obviously, as here at Forma, our head of talent and head of people operations are also faced with the same issues, right? How do we differentiate from the others? How do we attract and retain the talent that we have? And I always ask our team, the hiring managers, to think about the why. Start with the why, right? Why do we believe fundamentally that Forma is a company that attracts the right talent to our team? And one of the things that we stand for, you know, like you said, Brad, we're a champion for flexibility, right? That's our entire business all about. We help our customers offer flexible benefits. So as a company ourselves, we got to stay flexible as well. So we tell people that, hey, we are a remote first team. We value flexibility. We value ownership in the work that you do, and come to work in a very challenging yet very fulfilling product. You know, here at Forma. So start with the why, and then of course have everything that we do, workforce strategy, our office strategy, our benefit strategy, feed into the overall why. Right? Structuring as a remote first team, making sure that people can find time to connect with each other, offering flexible benefits. These are all the things that support the why behind, like, why should talent come work for us? Why should they stay? So that's a very unique thought exercise that we go through. And of course, from benefits angle, there's of course a ton that we can do, right, to support the why behind the scenes. Okay, so we'll love to move into the next segment. Thanks a ton for the spectacular insights from that segment, from the last section, Brad. I personally learned a great deal, right, peeking into Stripe's benefit strategy and overall workforce strategy. So to kick off the fireside chat, I'm gonna pause my screen for a moment and just start, you know, having a chat with you, Brad. Starting off with a topic around pandemic, right? Specifically, many of us in the benefit space has been looking at providing emergency relief, one-time programs, really aimed at supporting our employees during this time of change, right? Since 2.5 years ago. Now that we're looking at this post-pandemic world becoming endemic, return to the office, what are some of the challenges that you see ahead that we may be facing very soon?
Yeah, it's a great question and something again that we are facing every day. But kind of taking a step back, we know that many excuse me, employers tried to take quick action to support their employees during COVID. Many offered remote stipends, wellness programs, caregiving assistance, mental health support, and so many more programs. And like you said, 2.5 years later, we're here, and now we face the question of, what do we do with these programs? Are they long-term in their current state? Do they need to be changed, or can we simply sunset them? But if you do intend to have them stick around, how do you make these programs sustainable for long-term use? So Stripe's answer to kind of this question around addressing these challenges was looking at our programs we had in place, which is a wellness program. It was pretty specific. And so we said, what can we do to make this more sustainable long-term, make it more meaningful? And the answer to that question for us was, well, let's just build off the program that we have. Let's rebrand it and expand the scope from truly a wellness program into a flexible menu of lifestyle benefits. We call it a menu, to kind of show that there's a lot of optionality within the program. And that's what we partner with Forma on. So at the beginning of this year, we kind of relaunched our wellness program as the menu of benefits. And again, it just allows for even more choice and flexibility while helping to standardize our budget. It reduces the number of vendors we work with. Jason, you had shown earlier about just the options on your platform where people can choose to spend the money. It's really endless. And it just allowed for us to be really creative with the use of the wellness program, and just, like I said, rebranded it and just expanded the scope of it.
Love it, Brad. And, obviously rebranding the program, which we've been collaborating very closely on over the last handful of months into this overall menu of benefits concept. Can you tell us maybe a little bit of the history of this wellness program that you mentioned, which is kind of like the prior version, right? That ultimately evolved into this menu of benefits concept. Can you give the audience a little bit of a taste into how did that program come about? What happened during when COVID first hit, and how did we end up here 2.5 years later?
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, it started out as a very basic wellness program. Where people think of wellness programs, they think of like wellness incentives, but what's the most common use? Well, I'm going to get a gym membership. I'm going to buy a Peloton, or I'm going to use it for some strength training classes. It's really focused kind of on that fitness portion. Even though it's called wellness, there's always been a drive to just focus on the fitness piece. So that's really how our program started out. Was, we're going to call it a wellness program, but it's focused more on the fitness aspect. There's a few other things within the program, but and that's how it was pre-pandemic. And then but first of all, I want to say we were working with Forma pre-pandemic to kind of start this program, and it worked really well. But then, once COVID hit, we really leaned on Forma to kind of help us expand this program. How can we make it bigger to, reach more people, and not just have people with a gym membership, because people weren't going to gyms anymore. They were focusing at home. How can we use these dollars elsewhere? So, Forma already had the ability for employers like Stripe to get creative on how they use their wallets. So we were in a perfect situation where we were able to leverage that capability that Forma has even further. So once COVID hit, we quickly transitioned from the wellness only wallet to having a wallet dedicated to caregiving costs. And then even another team at Stripe used Forma to host an educational stipend program to use the technology for educational purposes. So then, as I've said, at the beginning of the year, we kind of took a refreshed approach to the program. And then we also looked at these other wallets that we added, like the caregiving, for example, and thought, well, does that, as this program has evolved over the years, does it make sense to have separate wallets? And then we really started looking at expanding into just one large wallet that expands truly wellness activities, your fitness, as I mentioned. We even have sustainability categories in there. Caregiving is included in the wallet now, and a number of personal services. So the employees are given a monthly stipend, and they can spend the money as they see fit. And our real goal was to, resonate with employees on a variety of life stages and priorities as everybody's lives were upended. What we did pre-pandemic is completely different than what we did during the pandemic, and now it's shifting again post-pandemic. So we really want to make sure that we're meeting people with those different life stages and as their priorities shift over time, and just give them the choice to spend a singular budget with one vendor in a way that's going to work for them. And that really just represents all those steps I kind of took you through, just really represents the evolution of our partnership with Forma, because we initially saw these as standalone programs. But then working with Forma, we saw a huge opportunity to simplify our approach with one choice-based wallet that is more equitable to employees where they are in their lives and with their families.
Yeah. Brad, one of the things that I've always had a ton of respect for you and the people team at Stripe is you all really listen very carefully to the employees' feedback. Right. And also taking action very quickly once the feedback comes through. And of course, we're very proud and really humbled to be able to be, a partner to help us support the administrative side of the program. But I really have a ton of respect for, going to the why. Like, what are the employees asking about? Why? What is the stance that Stripe takes on being able to support their employees on a day-to-day basis? For example, in this case, the flexibility and choice are the key concepts, right? So how does it gets weaved into like every single aspect of the workforce strategy, benefit strategy being a big part of it. And so I really sort of encourage and double click into this for the audience today. Start with the why. What are the most important strategies that powers your people, your workforce strategy? What are the loudest voice, right, that your employees are telling you? Follow those things and design every other program, benefits program along with it. Design your programs that way that supports both your workforce strategy and your employees' voice. I think that usually is a very good methodology, right, to make sure that we're factoring all the important things into what we deliver.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Jason. I mean, it is so important. If there's one thing, one piece of advice that I would give for all benefit professionals or HR professionals, it's exactly what Jason just said. Listen to your employees, because then once you get their buy-in and support, then things really take off, and the popularity and the engagement, far exceeds anything you've ever expected before. And I mean, as you all probably know, people want to be heard. We're in a culture right now where people are not afraid to speak up. They want to be heard. They want to voice their opinions. And they hold so much valuable information. A lot of it is actionable, some of it isn't, but the more information you know, the easier it's going to be to create your benefits and retention strategies. And it also makes it a lot easier to execute, because you're able to tell that story to your leadership to get that budget. When you have that whole story in place, it makes execution so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely right, Brad. And we were just tying this back to on the poll earlier. Top of mind for a lot of HR benefits professionals is talent attraction and retention, right? So the more ability for us to differentiate from the other employers out there on the market, the more unique this is going to be for candidates coming through and also the internal employees, getting them to stay. And one way to differentiate is to listen to them, right? And really be able to tell the employees, here's why you should work at Stripe. This is why you should work at Forma. And by the way, here are the actions that we took on to stay true to our words for you. Right. I think that makes a huge ton of difference. And we're going to talk a little bit about executive support, leadership support a little bit later. So we'll come back to this. So Brad, tell us a little bit about, we're June 1st, exactly 5 months into 2022. What has the feedback been for this menu of benefits concepts? What are you hearing from the employees?
Yeah, generally feedback has been very positive, and most importantly, our utilization has been very high. So I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we rolled out this menu of lifestyle benefits globally. This isn't US centric, it's to our entire population globally, which has a pretty far reach. So we've seen more than 80% utilization globally. So about over 80% of our employees are using the benefit in some form or another. We've seen the high CSAT scores of over 97%, high NPS of 75% plus. And what I love to say, for me selfishly, being on the benefits administration side, is this program is about as easy as it gets in benefits when administering a program. There's truly very little we need to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of administering the plan. And there's very little we need to do when we face adding a new country, or if we want to make a program design change. The process is very simple. And I would say, on the other hand, while we've gotten positive feedback, we've actually gotten very little feedback. And in my cynical view, that's a really great thing, because typically employees are going to be put a stronger voice when something is going wrong. So we actually hear very little other than some very positive things. And one of the fun parts about a flexible menu of lifestyle benefits is, you have to set categories, and we have a wide range of things that are provided. But one of the fun parts of administering a benefit like this is the creative things that employees come up with asking if it's covered. We get a lot of laughs on some of the things that people would like covered under the plan that don't quite make the cut, but we really appreciate their ideas. And we actually keep track of all the ideas that come in, because on an annual basis, we review it. Because again, we want to, provide things that are relevant to our employees.
Love it, Brad. Another prime example of not just listening to the employee's voice on the upfront side, right? Surveying the employees, what would you like to see? What would you like to be included? What's top of mind for you? But also, Brad, the prime example of this is also listening to the employees by looking at their actions, right? What are they actually trying to use the program on? How are they actually responding, right, to these subsidies that they're being assigned to? Like, what people say versus what people do, there could be a variance in there. Right. Yeah. So being able to listen to both sides of that, both data sources coming from it will be very beneficial, helping be able to make more, precise decisions. Always love to hear that. So changing gears a little bit, Brad, any recommendations on where to start if an employer, somebody in the audience is thinking about investing flexible benefits for the first time? What are some of the most important recommendations that you would give?
Yeah, I would say kind of most importantly, don't be intimidated to think big. Don't be intimidated by the concept. It's not as complex as you may think, and employees really love the choice aspect of it. So don't be intimidated to think big. Really think through what are the programs your employees ask for. What do you think they would like you to offer, but don't or can't for some reasons. Then I would say, again, this is kind of a recurring theme of our talk, but ask your employees what they want. Maybe they want flexible benefits more than another program that you offer. If you're thinking you can't afford a flexible benefit model such as this, you may be surprised if you ask your employees, would you value more investment in option A or option B, which is flexible benefits? And if they choose option B and rank option A really low, you don't really need to ask for much additional spend. You can actually just divert that spend from a program that's not getting the utilization or employees don't really want. And then finally, I know I've said this for almost all these points, most important, but I think this is truly the most important point, is really develop the story that supports what you're trying to accomplish, and tell the story from a financial perspective, so you can influence your finance partners, show that you've done the work, this is what the employees want, and also, craft the story so it influences your HR leadership. And by, having the financial data, what employees want, and looking at the spend and what makes sense and what fits into your future strategy, well, all those data points will help you craft that story.
100%, Brad. I think tying the budget conversation back to the poll that we saw earlier, second on the second most important topic top of mind for the audience today is around, okay, limited budget. How do I make sure that I design the right strategy to support the employees the best way possible? I think there's two recommendations that we actually hear a lot from our customers on the Forma side. One is that start small and iterate. Dream big, but start small and iterate, right? And making sure that we're showing success along the way to the leadership team and to the employees. And I guarantee you, the employees are going to appreciate it, even if you're starting small, because they're inherently getting more choice, right? They're getting the type of benefits that's more personalized, meaningful to them. So one of the very practical things that we always discuss with our customers is, look, we know that adding more and more point solutions is not a sustainable way, right, to run your benefit strategy. So what are some of the point solutions that you're seeing the lowest engagement rate on? Why don't we think about moving those point solutions out in the next year? We start small, put together a pool, give employees a chance to choose. Chances are they're going to choose the other type of benefits products that's the most applicable based on their background, right? So we're getting higher utilization, the dollars are allocated to the right places. The following year, we get to move out several more programs, that's low engagement, we're increasing the pool. It gives the perception to the employees that we're actively improving the offering, right? We're adding more budgets to it, removing the programs that through your action, you're not engaging, you're not really valuing those programs. How can we do the things that you value more? Okay, so super, a very good topic for people to think through in the audience today. So, Brett, I would love to tie this back to one other question for you, which is around how do you position this program in front of the leadership team for their buying, right? Budget-wise, the pitch that you go to, the proposal. Talk to us a little bit about, hey, if somebody's looking at this for the first time, how do we position this in front of the leadership team?
Yeah, I think first you need to understand if your leadership team or the company culture in itself has strong feelings about a particular category, or even the philosophy behind the program's intent. Understand what the rails are, and therefore what the philosophy behind the program should be. Is it to support large life needs only? Is it to find a solution for convenience, or is it something else entirely? Identify the goal first, and then build from there, and then understand where the walls are, because leadership may not have a positive feeling about employees just spending money to spend it. So it's really what you often see in some wellness programs. So it's really kind of developing that philosophy and understand what those walls are and how leadership views it. Next, I would say, we've talked a lot about this, but really position the concept of flexibility as a benefit in itself, both to employees who see this as a unique and meaningful offering, as well as the company, because you are able to offer more options for use without stack adding benefit on top of benefit. And so therefore, employees are more likely to look at this money as their own and elect for what matters most to them, and not sign up for that gym membership that they never use because they think, oh, it's free, the company is paying for it. Next, I would say, focusing on simplified budgets and vendorship relationship. means more straightforward cost projections for your finance partners, fewer statements of work, fewer security reviews, fewer QBR reviews, fewer invoices to pay. So you can scale rather quickly by reducing all of those different factors that you get and the administrative burden dealing with a number of different vendors. And then finally, I know I sound like a broken record here, but really craft that compelling story with the data, with the employee sentiment, and a clear vision of what the change or what the program means to your organization and to your employees, because that's really what leadership is looking for. If you can tell a compelling story and that it makes sense, you will be able to influence them a lot easier if you just go in with stats and not a clear philosophy as to what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, love it, Brad. Not a broken record at all. I mean, it just emphasizes on the importance of starting with the why and the reason behind the scenes, right? And also, I think trying to get into understand fundamentally where the business is headed. Like, we're all in a different industry, we're from different sizes, we operate in different countries, but really trying to understand from a leadership perspective, where is the business trying to go, right? And how can benefits really take a seat at the table, benefits professionals, and say, hey, look, I know this is where we're going. Maybe we're expanding into new countries. Maybe we're shifting from fully on site to we're committed to being a hybrid. Maybe we're going fully remote. How does benefit strategy support the goal of the business, right? There's a ton of ways that we can do that, but always starting to find out from leadership team, what do you care about? Where are we going as a business, and then design the benefit strategy based on that. And then just the second point I'd love to emphasize here, because personally I feel really deeply about this, which is the flexibility that often gets overlooked. We were talking about this earlier for the benefits professionals. Look, the inherent value of flexibility and choice for the employees is very clear. People get more choice. They get to choose the programs that is the most relevant to them. But think about the flexibilities that we're also getting as benefits professionals. Like you said, nobody likes to do those security reviews. Nobody likes to manage the statement of work. Nobody wants to have to go back to the finance team and say, hey, look, I got these 10 programs that we're renewing. Their cost goes up by 5%, year over year. What are we going to do, right? A lot of trade-offs that we have to do. And at the end of the day, what we get is low engagement across the board because people don't find it valuable, right? So how do we make sure that we solve that point solution burnout issue, making sure that we're giving people access to the kind of programs they want? Hugely important, often gets overlooked. And in this, everybody's thinking about change. So if you're bringing this concept of, hey, less liability, more choice, we're going to introduce that to our benefit strategy, I would bet that a lot of people on the leadership team is going to really appreciate that. We're living in a time of change, more flexibility that we live for, that we reserve for ourselves as a company, and also giving to the employees. It's a win-win situation, right? So, Brett, I would love to reserve some time towards the end for Q&A. So 3 minutes left. I would love to squeeze in one last question for you. Sure. Potential pitfalls, right? A lot of people were talking about doing these programs for the first time, but looking back for the last several years that Stripe has been running a program like this, what are some of the potential pitfalls that you want to share with the audience? Things to think through before launching this program? Practical suggestions. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'll preface some of these with if you're looking at doing this globally, because as you all probably know, the benefit landscape and the market in each country is severely different. Even if you compare the US to Mexico or US to Canada, our neighbors, it's very different. And so it's a lot different in EMEA, APAC, all over. So one of the first things I would say is, make sure you're finding the right dollar amount for each country. And, make sure that you're reviewing the current benefit programs there to ensure there are no takeaways from current programs because you'll probably be weaving some of the aspects that are outside of your lifestyle or your wallet menu of benefits into one program. So you really need to be cognizant that there's no takeaways there or even perceived takeaways because that can get you off to a very poor start. And then make sure that you have internal alignment on what the program is and what it isn't. Make sure that your leadership and your HR and your benefits team know exactly what the program is and what it isn't, because employees will try to advocate for different things to be included or excluded based on their personal circumstances, and that is very hard to do even though you're trying to listen to them. So you just have to be careful on what it is and what it isn't. And then know exactly what expenses are going to be eligible and what is not, because as I mentioned, your employees will ask for a wide range of items to be covered. So it's good to have a strategy going in. And then, as Jason said, it's just important to iterate over time, and then you can kind of build this plan up. It may make sense to start out a little smaller and then open it up over time as you get more feedback, as you see the data, you see the usage. And then finally, again, looking from a global perspective, is really important to know the local regulations on certain programs, and especially if you intend to include them in your wallet. Like, for example, I know in France, you have to have a certain amount for commuter benefits each month for each employee. Now, you need to be aware of those types of things if you're going to try to include them in your wallet or not, because some things you may not be able to put in the wallet in certain countries. So just be cognizant of all those local regulations where applicable.
Love it. Brad, you mentioned something very important. If you're a global company, or even if you're in the US, how do you get started? One of the first questions that we often hear from customers that are launching this type of program for the first time is, where do I start? How much to offer? How do I offer it upfront for the entire year? Do I offer a lifestyle program for just on a month-to-month basis or quarterly? We get asked that question a lot. So one of the things I wanted to share with everybody is actually this. So as promised, I promised a couple of helpful resources, right, for everybody, for everybody in the audience. We're going to send a follow-up email, so there's no need to write these down. But the Forma team is going to be at SHRM 2022, and we're hosting a cycling class. Join the class for a great workout and for a chance to win a Peloton. You heard that right? We're actually offering up a raffle. So head over to the website at joinforma.com to sign up. We also have, for those of you who are looking to get started or just to rethink your flexible benefits programs, over the years of learning from our customers, those who are pushing the boundaries forward for a lot of their employees, we have compiled a best practice guide called the Definitive Guide to Creating Benefits Spending Accounts. So a lot of best practices, how do you get started, how do you benchmark, and all that good stuff. So we'll send those out as a follow-up. Could be a very helpful resource for you. We also are compiling a sort of state of the union in terms of what is being offered. We have members, 300,000 members across 80 countries. We're hoping to provide a point of view on what does that benchmark look like, what are our customers offering. That could be very useful. Okay, so with that said, useful resources putting on the screen. Brett, I would like to go through some of the audience questions with you, if that's okay. One of the first ones that we have here on the screen is how to improve employee benefits at a low cost to the company.
Yeah, we've touched on this a little bit, but if there's one thing I would reiterate is survey your employees. I promise you will be surprised by what they actually find value in, and you'll be surprised by what they tell you. And then look at the data, as Jason had mentioned earlier, to see if their actions line up with what they're telling you. So then you'll be able to have actionable data to move spend around and put more money into programs that employees value and put less into the ones that they don't value, or you may even be able to get rid of them. So really stay tuned with what the data shows and what your employees want, and then you'll be able to move the budget that you already have around and add value and add more benefits without adding cost, because you're potentially getting rid of cost elsewhere.
Makes a ton of sense. And what are the tips and tricks for better employee benefits communication? I feel like a lot of people could benefit from this a lot.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, it literally seems harder than ever to promote benefit programs, and a lot of that is due to just email overload, Zoom overload. There's just so much information being shared from each organization that it's hard to squeeze benefit information in there. So one thing that we've always done, and I've tried to focus on, is that on-demand collateral, because a lot of the times people aren't just, spending their free time looking at benefits content just for fun. They're actually going to do it when they need an answer to something. So have that on-demand collateral, make it easy to find answers. One thing we do at Stripe is we aim for 3 clicks or less to find content on benefits. And probably most importantly, and even though this sounds really simple, it's actually very hard to do. Don't speak like a benefits professional at all, because people will not understand you. Speak like your non-HR employees, because when you are able to do that effectively, the results are really amazing in what you get in engagement and what employees are able to retain.
Makes a ton of sense. And Brett, what's your point of view on in terms of leveraging employee benefits to tackle some of the challenges in the realm of DE&I, right? Hot topic. A lot of companies are looking to advance their initiatives under DE&I. I personally feel very passionate about this. Talk to us a little bit about how Benefits Team supports that at Stripe.
Yeah, I think if you have ERGs, employee resource groups within your organizations, I think it's really important to partner with them. And again, ask them what is important to their communities, and also ask, what gaps do you see in our current offerings? Where could we make improvements as to the benefits that could potentially impact your area of most care? And then because again, they are going to provide you with that firsthand feedback and that information, which is really invaluable, that you can oftentimes think what a specific group or a specific demographic or a specific set of employees needs, but you won't actually know until you get that feedback from them. So I think it's really important, partner with your ERGs, provide as much support as you can through your partnership, through your benefits, and really lean on them to help provide that information and fill those gaps for the benefits team.
Makes sense. And Brad, there's a question that is tied to one of your comments earlier on. Like, what are some of the creative ideas to design benefits beyond traditional basic benefit, right? You mentioned earlier, look, people are not going to drill into your plan documents to figure out what's $10 or $20 on a copay, but they are looking for something that distinguishes, right, an employer from the others. So what are your thoughts around here? Like, what goes beyond the traditional medical, dental, and vision? What else is out there to help the employers stand out from the rest?
Yeah, I think, for us, it's, this menu of lifestyle benefits has been a differentiator, been very well received. But I think it's really important to listen to your peers, see what else is out there, see what other companies are doing. And you can do that through benchmarking activities, networking events, events like this. And also, it's really important to keep an eye on the vendor market because as you can see with Forma and what you're doing, Jason, vendors are always looking to disrupt the market. And every day they're creating more creative options with how our benefit programs are administered, with the types of benefits that are offered. I can't tell you how many emails I get every day from different vendors wanting to engage. So it can be worth listening to them, because that's often the start of some of these creative ideas and what you're going to see in the market, because everybody's looking to disrupt something.
Makes a ton of sense, Brad. Got time for one last question. Okay, this one's going to be a very interesting one. What are some of the best practices that you're seeing, within Stripe when you're operating, applying to employee benefit strategy on a global scale? Obviously, Stripe is a global company. Yeah. What does that look like? What is the philosophy there?
Yeah, this is really a tough one, because oftentimes at US-centric organizations, the countries outside of the US focus on what the US has, but the markets, as I mentioned before, are just not comparable. It is you cannot compare country to country when looking at benefits. So I would say that you can have some global programs such as a menu of lifestyle benefits like we did with Forma. You can have some blanket general leave policies, but it's really important to know the local market and what is common there, and also know, what your competition for talent offers. Like I had mentioned before, do that benchmarking, know what your competition offers, and don't be afraid to have separate programs in different countries, because you need to meet what's relevant in that local market versus having something that's just a blanket policy for the whole world, because that may not make sense.
Makes a ton of sense. Just got a note from our host, HR.com's Hester. And that is it for us today, everybody. Thank you again, Brad, for joining us. Really, really appreciative. And just likewise, everybody else in the audience for joining us. As promised, we're going to have some additional resources being sent to you. It could be helpful in helping you get started to think about flexible benefits for your workforce. And with that said, hand it off back to Hester for the wrap up.
I'd like to thank our presenters as well as all of you for joining us today. If you'd like to view this webcast again, the archived recording will be available on the HR.com website within 24 hours. The webcast credit will show in your HR.com account within 2 business days, and we'll also send you an email with your credit information. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a moment to fill out the exit survey that opened in a new browser page on your computer. This concludes our webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.